In this video, I want to take you guys through a couple of different news topics. The PlayStation 5 has reportedly outsold the Xbox Series X and S by 2-1 in Q1 of 2021. A couple of things to dissect with that outside of just reading the headline and, getting all crazy about it. PlayStation 5 reportedly outsold Xbox Series X and S by 2-1 in Q1 of 2021. This is data obtained by Ampere Analysis, and that has revealed that the PS5 sold around 2.83 million units during the first quarter of 2021, beating out the Xbox Series X and S by a ratio of 2-1, and Microsoft's console has reportedly moved around 1.31 million units. Now, there's a couple things to dissect, but first of all, I should also note the report also does note that Nintendo Switches managed to outsell both of them, and the console is obviously at a very high point right now. The Switch, that is, because availability is there, and the demand is still very much there with all the games coming out to that platform. Now, 3.3 million units for the PlayStation 5 is pretty solid for a single quarter. However, you have to ascertain the fact that they probably could have sold a lot more than 3.3 million units had the stock been available. That goes for the Xbox as well. Look, whenever Xbox Series X's and S go in stock, it's not like they're in stock for that long. Yes, they are easier to come by than PlayStation 5s, but it's not like they're that much easier. Piers Harding Rolls, an analysis for Ampere Analysis, commented, "Both Sony and Microsoft's new consoles are suffering from supply constraints and unpredictable availability. Sony will be pleased that its PlayStation 4 market share is continuing into the new generation, but it's very hard to gauge real demand under the current market conditions." And that's really the situation right now. There's a lot of different factors to play into, like, is the fact the PlayStation 5 getting scalped up inherently increasing demand because there is that aura around the console right now, then let's say the PlayStation 5 be readily available. That's an argument you can make. However, I guarantee you that if PlayStation 5s were available in droves, it would have sold very, very well, even more than that 2.83 million units that were sold in a quarter, and that's still a very successful number, but at the end of the day, they probably could have upped that to 4 million, 4.5 million. That's just me talking about it from the standpoint of talking to other people, reading comment sections, reading message boards, and things like that. The demand for the console is absolutely there, but, at this point, there is that issue of the supply constraints, and that's really what's hampering the sales of the PlayStation 5. At the very least, Sony is going to be happy that they have that stranglehold on the console market, but Microsoft is really just moving on from just being a console-oriented manufacturer, and Sony kind of is too, because Microsoft has got Game Pass, they've got it on PC, they're putting all their games on PC, and don't get it twisted, Sony's still very much in the console market, but you see it. Horizon Zero Dawn is now on PC, Days Gone is now on PC. They are trying to create multiple revenue streams, and I understand why they're doing it, because they can bring people into the fold with the PlayStation 5 by releasing their exclusives there first, but then, hey, after a while, put that exclusive on Steam, put it on PC, and then let's sell another million and a half copies digitally, and that's a significant additional revenue stream for them. Are you telling me Ghost of Tsushima, if it was released on PC, would not sell in the neighborhood of 1.5 million, 2 million copies? I think it would. And that is a significant amount of revenue when you consider the fact that all of those games are going to be sold digitally, and it's just free money for them at that point outside of, actually having a team to port the game, but that's not going to be the cost that it was to actually create the game, and they're going to be making a significant amount of revenue on top of that. But Sony is still very much in the console market, and that seems to be their bread and butter, where Xbox and Microsoft are seemingly slowly not moving away from it, but that's not being their core part of their gaming ideology, because they do want people to play on their smartphones. They do want people to play on PC, even more so with Xbox Game Pass for PC, because remember, I don't think we're going to get to a point anytime in the near future where a Ratchet & Clank is releasing day and day on PC and PlayStation 5, but we are in an era where Halo Infinite, PC, Xbox Series, day one, Fable, PC, Xbox Series day one, where Sony has still very much got that core focus on console. So if you're a person that does have a PC and you want to pick one of the next generation consoles to get, you're probably going to go with the PlayStation 5, because there is that bevy of exclusives that do come first to the PS5. And as far as Sony's game plan on how they want to tackle bringing their games to PC, it still remains to be seen if they're going to bring everything to PC, or if it's just, hey, we're going to select a few titles here and there. But Sony seems to have a lot more focus focus into the console market than Microsoft does, and, you know, you can make an argument which idea is the right way to go. I think Microsoft has a solid game plan going forward, and I think Sony has a solid game plan going forward too. They are just kind of diverging just a tad bit, just a little bit more so than we've seen in previous generations on how they tackle the market itself. But still, I would foresee that if they can get the stock right, if they can get the stock at a decent place by the holiday season, that the PlayStation 5 is going to do incredibly well come the fall, especially when you're talking about, at that point, Ratchet is out, Demon's Souls is still there, Returnal, Horizon. If you can get Final Fantasy or God of War out there, now you're talking about a bevy of games that people want to play, and they'll drop to $500, and demand will only increase that much more, but you gotta get the stock there. And even in the case of both numbers, Xbox Series and PlayStation 5, they probably could have sold a wealth more of consoles had they been readily available. But it is what it is right now, PlayStation 5 well ahead of Xbox Series, and I do think that's going to persist for the rest of the generation, unless people do have that perceived value of Game Pass. And when you talk about the Bethesda games coming out, if Bethesda can deliver some solid titles, I could easily see that ship turning, but it's that element of PC gamers are just going to get those games first, and I've always said that I think they're two different audiences, but I do think there's a bit of crossover, and I think that audience, if they do want to get a console, they're just going to go with the PlayStation 5, which that's going to give sales numbers a benefit towards Sony, but that doesn't mean Microsoft is going to lose out on revenue, because if those PC consumers are signing up for Xbox Game Pass and they're buying their games, at the end of the day, they're getting that revenue anyway. It's just an interesting market to tackle right now because it's so many variables. I mean, the stock is so low. They're tackling their game plan in a different way. Their game plan is a little bit different this generation, comparatively speaking to last generation. I think Sony still has their, eggs in the basket of, we create premier experiences that we're going to charge $60 to $70 for, where Microsoft is all about that subscription model. And you see, Sony has their subscription model, but they're not as high on it. Microsoft has their subscription model that they're super high on, so you can see the differences in tactics on how they're handling it. And then you can see Sony is like, okay, we'll release a couple of titles on PC, but we're not going to release everything. And Microsoft's like, we'll release everything on PC. Let's just try to generate as much revenue as we can from Game Pass and software sales, which I do think is a good idea. Ultimately, which one's gonna win out, I don't know. It's gonna be something that we'll look back on in 10-15 years and we can be like, okay, they did the right move, they didn't, or they might just both be doing the right move and they can both come out as winners. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with both consoles being successful. That's how we're gonna, elevate the gaming industry as a whole. But that's gonna wrap it up for me. Definitely interested to hear your guys' thoughts. Like, what do you prefer? Do you prefer the model that Sony is going? And I know we do, target more of a Sony audience, so I'm sure a lot of you are gonna be like, okay, we prefer the $60, $70 premier experiences versus a subscription model, and the focus being on that subscription model as a whole. I think there's arguments to be made for both sides, but sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.